Abs from October Red. I am here with the lovely Ben Davidson. It only seems like 5 minutes ago we were having this conversation in Nottingham, and we are back again, and welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, looking forward to it. Big fight.
Feedback from last time then. I've spoke to people in the industry, and I know that you're quite a meticulous coach that pays a lot of attention to detail, obviously without giving away any game plans. Just your kind of general feedback on the last performance and kind of like what you had to go away and rethink about to come back stronger this time.
Yeah, so going into the first fight, there was a lot of talk of Lara being this monster and what a mad fight to take, and, you know, absolute madness. And I think actually at the end of the fight, a lot of people was like, I can see a clear path to victory for Leigh Wood. Actually, you know, they thought we was mad for wanting to go down this route. I think a lot of people changed their opinions after the fight, even though the fight went the other way. So I think that speaks volumes. I think that Leigh grew into the fight, and I think Leigh actually went from one extreme where, hold on a minute, is this guy a monster, to the complete other end of the spectrum where I can get you out of it. So I think that he's learned a lot in terms of gaining valuable experience and understanding discipline that he needs to show to be continuous with what he's doing. He's got to be a little bit more patient, not get so carried away. But also, I think that very quickly in the fight, Mauricio Lara gained a lot of respect for Leigh's power, and I think that being honest, he was a lot less reckless than what we had prepared for. I actually now think that there's a chance that he comes out, because he eventually got what he was looking for, that this time it might play out a little bit more how we anticipated in the first fight, in the sense that what he's saying here, I'm going to look for that knockout a little bit earlier. I might see him be a little bit more reckless, in which case a lot of scenarios that we worked on in the first fight might play out in this fight.
We talk about working on those scenarios, and you've touched on something there. It's kind of like you can't really fall into the trap of what he's saying at the top table. He's confident because he won. To say he's going to get him out there earlier could be a kind of trick for you guys to like put, obviously Leigh, like you said, that careful, how he started off quite careful before he came into the fight. Round one, when Leigh does go out, what is, like I said, no specific detail, but what is it that you would like to see Leigh do this time round?
Well, it depends. If Mauricio Lara does come out and he's a little bit more, then, you know, the reality is when someone comes with that momentum, if you're forever moving away from them, you'll never kill that momentum. So the reality is in those scenarios, Leigh's in a position where he has to meet him, you know. He's reckless when he transitions like that. Trading in a sensible manner on Leigh's terms, you know. Leigh will then set the trap. You want to rush in? Here's an opportunity for you to rush in. I will meet you. It's an unfair race if Leigh's feet are set and he's got a transition. Which is sort of what happened in the early part of the first fight. Leigh landed a couple of nice catch counter left hooks, and Lara very quickly was like, oof, hold on a minute. I can't rush in like that and be so reckless. Leigh tamed him like that before Leigh started to be consistent behind working him upstairs and downstairs, and obviously with a jab to the body that Leigh's known for. But like I say, there's a few adjustments in this fight where we can create a few more scenarios that we like, that we feel favour Leigh in the fight.
Coming into this fight, Leigh, like you said, he's now been in there with him. There's no longer that anticipation or that fear of this monster. How will that affect his confidence, do you believe, on the night, on, you know, his performance, and how he goes in there this time with his head held high rather than being reserved?
Yes, I think he went from one end of the spectrum where, oh, hold on a minute, I need to have a look here, to the other end of the spectrum. I think that with the way the fight was playing out, but then what eventually happened, that will help keep him a little bit more in the middle and not too respectful, but not get too careless as well.
It's a good point that you put on there, because sometimes when a fighter's got a reputation, the opponent, whoever the opponent is, it's not like treading cautiously, but they have that respect before they've actually experienced feeling the power punches or the punches from their opposition. How important is it for you to like just say to Leigh, you know, or he's just another human, you can do this? Yeah,
you know, obviously one of the things that favour us is the fact that Leigh has now shared the ring with him. We've also now got that footage to go back on and say, when you did this, he did that. Here's that scenario that we was talking about. can you see how it's playing out now? And he can go, I remember that happened in the fight. That's what it looked like. That's what I need to do in that moment. So there's an advantage there as well. So I think, like I said, I think it's important that he does remain respectful of Maurizio. You know, both guys are huge punchers. The reality is, either guy can end the fight at any moment. We said this going into the first fight. That showed throughout. There was a moment when I thought Leigh had Maurizio going and consistently starting to break him down as well, down the stretch. But then obviously Maurizio got what he was looking for as well. So it's one of them fights, and one that I think you can have to. You haven't got a chance to get up and go to the toilet for. So
that almost, like I said, the turnaround on this fight has been rapid. It's almost like he didn't think. It was like, no, I need to get this done. Having a fighter like that, because I think he's even said that maybe Eddie's sort of like giving him other options, like you haven't got to take this fight. But Leigh's adamant that he's got to settle this score. What is it like to coach a fighter like that?
Yeah, so actually before I ever actually met Leigh, I was training a mutual friend of ours, and he said to me about Leigh. So I said, okay, I'll have a look. And I watched the fight, and in the fight Leigh got hurt, and he beat his chest in that moment as if to say, let's go, come on. Straight away I thought, he's got character. So I didn't need to see anymore. I said to him, bring him down, because I knew he had that certain type of character within him. And that's shown a few times throughout his fights that I've worked with him. The reality is that after the fight, we spoke with Eddie, and Eddie said to me that obviously, you know, just as big of a fight for Matchroom was the Josh Warrington Maurizio Lara trilogy. Huge fight. Leigh didn't want to step aside. He wanted to go straight back in there. For us, being honest, Leigh gets so indulged into a game plan. To take him away from that, to then bring him back, it would be a lot more adjustments than would need to be just to go straight back into it. I also think that there's a lot of talk about the turnaround. Leigh didn't get knocked out cold. A lot of fighters get hit with shots and might get dropped in sparring a couple of weeks before they actually then go and fight. Leigh's the type of fighter that looks after himself. He lives clean. I don't over-spar Leigh, but he does enough rounds. You know, we've taken into consideration that it's almost 2 back-to-back camps, so in terms of tapering that, we've looked at that as well. And, you know, to be honest with you, I feel within myself when I'm working with him, he's peaking at the right time for Saturday night.
Your responsibility as a coach, it couldn't have been an easy decision. I watched it, you know, I saw the emotion on his face, you know, how he was upset, but you could see deep down in you, and you was like, he'll come again, there's a rematch. Having to make that difficult decision, knowing the pressure from your fighter, the pressure from the fans, how is it to make a decision like that?
Yeah, I'll be honest, it didn't really cross my mind in that moment because you're just solely focused and you've got a decision to make. However, immediately, I was okay with the decision, but I could tell that the crowd were a bit off. And after reflecting on it, I totally understand that. You know, probably in that moment, from a distance, people were like, hold on a minute. Once I got in the ring and you know, I'm confident in the decision that I made. And I think a lot of people went back and rewatched it and actually were like, actually, do you know what? And even my own corner team were like, at that initial moment, I was like, oh, a bit hasty. And they was like, straight away, I thought, actually, no. Once I had a chance to have a look. So, you know, I had to have the conversation with Leigh after to say, look, I did what I did, but I can't sit here and say you definitely wouldn't have got through that round. I can't sit here and say you definitely would have. It was a situation that I wasn't willing to risk, wasn't willing to take that chance. I wasn't sure if you could defend yourself. Completely different if I was confident you could defend yourself, don't know if you'll get through it. I wasn't sure he could defend himself in that moment. And that's why I made the decision that I made.
And how was he with it at, you know, the initial, what was his like initial reaction? Because at the end of the day, you're his coach, you're the person that he puts his trust in. He puts his trust in you, you're his coach. So dealing with that raw emotion at the time. He'll always back his own coaches, but I think what's important for every fighter to have is that invincibility. You know, I could have got through that, and I don't want to take that away from him. And again, that's why I said to him, I can't guarantee that you wouldn't have got through that, so I don't want to take that away from him. Leigh has shown that he's got through sticky moments before and come back to win, so he has that in him, and that's why I say I can't guarantee that what the decision that I made was 100% perfect and was right. But
It was a decision that I made, and we've got a great relationship within the team, and there was no
Like animosity?
no, none of that. It's a team effort. We all want to win, and when we win together, and when we lose together.
So your honest and genuine opinion, how confident are you and the team, obviously that includes Leigh, the whole team, you're going to go in there and you are going to secure this win by any means necessary?
Yeah, look, I can guarantee that we'll go in there and look to get the win by any means necessary. However, I will say that I'm probably slightly more confident for this than I was the first time. I think that, as I've said, the fight can end at any moment between either guy. We know that when you've got two big punches like that. However, I think Leigh is probably a little bit more clear-headed in a sense of what he needs to do this time than he was last time, and I think that should show Saturday night.
Looking forward to it. One thing I will say about Leigh is he doesn't shy away from anything.
No, he doesn't. He really doesn't.
He's got you behind him, a solid team behind him, and I genuinely wish you all the best for Saturday night.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, and thank you for watching October Red Boxing. Like, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications. You can also find us on Instagram at October Red Boxing and on Twitter, October Red UK. And remember, at October Red, we stay ready.